God, what a day. Hello?
You Enwa!
Jesus Christ. Oh, God, my skin. What the fuck?
Man, I don't even know where to begin with this one. Morrowind has been one of the most influential games I have ever played in my life. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the legacy titles such as Doom and Super Mario Bros., but Morrowind definitely takes the cake in terms of my absolute favorite games. For starters, it showed up in my life when I was around 15 or 16 years old, and for a kid that age dealing with stupid stuff like depression, Morrowind was a wonderful escape from my dreaded life. It allowed me to be a different person in a different place far, far away from all my depression and self-loathing. This was another game that got its start for me on the original Xbox. I remember one day one of my friends was playing a game and I was like, ooh, what is that? Turned out to be one of the best games I will ever play. I remember borrowing it from him, and I was nice enough to keep it safe for him for a few months. That was kind of a dick move on my part, looking back now. I don't think he minded so much, though. I eventually got my own copy, of course, and I'm glad he didn't turn around after 2 days and want it back. When I first started playing Morrowind, I probably stayed up for 3 days straight going nuts with it. Not a far stretch for me back then. I had plenty of pretty bad insomnia, so I was going to be awake whether I wanted to or not. I might as well have a good time while I was up being miserable. A stark contrast to the man I've become today.
Hey, asshole!
I'm up. Jesus, with the glove and the snapping stones and Scarlett Johansson.
Back in those days, I had a few friends, and the poor guys would come over and want to hang out with me, but mostly we just stayed inside snacking and watching me play hours on end because I wasn't going to leave my house. I would hype them up by saying we were going on an adventure and just pick a direction and start running. I was my usual self, so I made it at least a little bit entertaining for them. I had some amenities too in the house, just for them. You know, seats, 4 walls, plenty of tap water. Jesus, why did those guys want to hang out with me? I was hopelessly addicted to Morrowind. So before we dig too far into this, let's take a moment to address some of the issues that come with firing up a new character in Morrowind. You know, that giant fucking elephant sitting in the corner of the room over there. Morrowind has a combat system that relies on random number generation, and your level in any particular skill is used to calculate that generation. So, a lot of folks get turned off when they go to smack something upside the head with a broadsword and fuck all happens. Just the sound of your weapon missing. Unfortunately, if random number Jesus has abandoned you, you will miss like 10 goddamn times in a row. Even though it looks like you're beating the shit out of somebody, the whoosh noises that your weapon makes from missing can be very frustrating for new players. Alright, I see you, you little jerk. Here we go. Alright. Taste my blade. What? Hey, fuck! Come on! What the fuck is going on? Die! What the Oh, Jesus Christ. Hell, it's still a little frustrating for a veteran player like myself, but as you use your skills more and more, the level goes up and you're able to land more and more strikes. This actually can give you a sense of accomplishment. I'm just guessing here, but it seems like Morrowind was caught in a strange time where gaming history wasn't ready for something so ambitious. And just before the time the game industry really started pumping a lot of money into voice acting and cinematic gameplay. And just before games came out on big old DVDs packed to the brim with content. So, most of the story is given inside a menu conversation history that's about as dry as watching me search my bank account history for a purchase that I made 6 months ago. There are a few places here and there where you'll get dialogue spoken out loud by some of the characters, and story-specific in-game videos, but mostly it's going to be reading. This can be another turnoff for a lot of new people. Most folks don't like reading an entire fucking novel while they're trying to enjoy playing a game. And if you're like me and are severely dyslexic and not very good at reading, some of the dialogue in the game can be difficult to sound out phonetically. There are 3 metric tons of weird fucking names and places in the game that I couldn't pronounce to save my life. I mean, if you put a gun to my head and tell me to spell refrigerator, we'd be fucked. Let alone trying to pronounce these weird outlandish names in Morrowind. But at the same time, it also seems to add some charm to the game. Luckily, I was able to get past my learning disability and just read what I could and piece together the rest using my own lore. There are names and places in the game that to this day I will mispronounce permanently because of that. Like the town of Aldrun. It will always be Alderaan from Star Wars for me. Well, I suppose the next order of business would be the soundtrack. Morrowind doesn't have a whole lot of tracks to choose from, but every single one of them is as good as gold. I mean, every single track of the game is awe-inspiring, and Jeremy Soule hit his target dead on. Half of the emotions that you get out of the game, in my opinion, comes from the excellent soundtrack. Like, the game doesn't have the same feeling without the music there, at least for me. It fills me with a sense of childlike wonder, and the need to explore the more massive world. I've used the soundtrack as a sleep aid to fall asleep to, or have it playing in the background while I do some boring menial task. In fact, I have a very vivid memory of firing up Morrowind on my Xbox, and during an in-game thunderstorm, I would hit the pause button and leave it on that while I fell asleep with great ambience in the background. I've often played it in the background while I'm reading a book. It can be incredibly calming and even add to the story that you're reading. Yes, I am that kind of fucking weirdo nerd. On a side note, the soundtrack for FTL is great for reading Star Trek novels. The in-game sounds for magic and combat, and just general Foley, are pretty damn good too. I don't think that there's anything too egregious that comes to mind and I wish wasn't in the game, or can't be adjusted for personal tastes. But I have to be honest, I think I'm biased because I've spent so many years inside that game world that it's hard for me to find faults that I can't personally get past. I mean, in all fairness, I have a fucking Elder Scrolls tattoo, so clearly I'm on board with the franchise. In fact, there's an in-game voice line that I ripped out of the install folders that I used to use for my text ringtone for years.
What now?
I will admit that the sound of the footsteps in-game can get on the repetitive side, so on a few occasions I've turned them off. Morrowind is another one of those games from back in the day that kind of outpaced everything else I was playing in terms of graphics. As always, looking back, it's easy to judge some outdated graphics or gameplay mechanics, but when I first saw the giant mushrooms and crazy-looking Daedric shrines, I was so immersed, and Morrowind literally took me to a world and allowed me to explore a reality I never thought possible. I mean, at that point in my gaming career, I didn't even know that there was such a thing as an open world. To be honest, I had my troubles with Final Fantasy VII being so open because I didn't understand that you could go back to places and new things might happen in the same areas that you previously visited. So this was a complete mindfuck for me to do things like kill an NPC and just take over their house. Like, this is mine now, Outlander. The color palette of Morrowind is a little sedated, but that makes sense to me because so much of the world is made of, like, natural materials. The story of Morrowind is actually pretty insane, like fucking off the rails insane in some parts. There's a lot of points in the main story where I just paused and was like, is this really what we're doing here? Alright then. There's also side quests and hidden quests that you can find here and there. I don't think I can count on my fingers and toes how many Easter eggs you can find in the game. With every single playthrough from 2003 to 2025 that I've done, I've always found something new in the giant world. Things like new story, or completely new dungeons that I've not seen. Recently, I've done a playthrough with a mod called Morrowind Rebirth. I wholeheartedly recommend it. It doesn't change a whole hell of a lot about the game, but adds a lot of flavor to the towns and a few revamped gameplay additions. I have to admit, I'm not the biggest mod guy, but Rebirth mod, it made me pretty happy. Playing Morrowind always brings me back to the good old memories of being in my room with smoke slowly wafting through the air and a tiny tube-type TV playing the main theme while I prepare myself for a long journey across the entire island of Vardenfell. Growing up in a lower-class income bracket, I didn't get a whole lot of money to buy video games. Most of the time, my games were bought from yard sales and swap meets, so I stayed pretty much a generation or three behind all of my friends. So I was very fortunate to have played Morrowind to begin with, and if someone asked me if I could forget everything about the game and play it all over again, I would probably say no. There's just too much of my life intertwined with the memories of Morrowind to separate the two. The enemy variety in Morrowind is not too shabby either. I hope you enjoy killing rats and, oh Christ almighty, the cliff racers. So there's a lot to look at and kill on your epic journey through the mushroom lava-dotted landscape.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
But there is absolutely insane amounts of community-made content out there to check out, and it completely changes the game. The PC version of Morrowind shipped with the Elder Scrolls Construction Set, the same tools the developer used to make the game, on its own separate CD. It made making mods for the game very simple, and of course, the obsessed people made some pretty damn good additions to the base game. I hadn't played Morrowind on the PC until a few years later when I received a copy from my friend that was, well, let's just say the game was on a burned CD. After that point, I never looked back though. With the drastically improved graphics and faster load times, I was a very happy camper playing Morrowind with a mouse and keyboard. Although, I was playing it on some ratty cast-off E-Machine's basic bitch computer that had just enough processing power to boot up. But it still ran Morrowind better than my still heavily used Xbox. Just as always, we were broke, and my brother was nice enough to hand me down a PC that he had just laying around. Probably a machine that someone wanted him to fix, but went a different route instead. And just a little while after that, I got the 2 expansion packs for Morrowind, Blood Moon and Tribunal. The expansions add hours and hours of gameplay to the base game, and they bring new locations, enemies, weapons to the table, so pretty good stuff. A lot of people love Blood Moon, and honestly, I'm in that camp as well. It's pretty legit story and atmosphere. Tribunal, on the other hand, is a little too cramped and claustrophobic for me, and some of the quests in Tribunal can be a bit cryptic in some places. But it's still a good romp after the main storyline, or even before you finish the main quest. The game has more than a few themes. The weapons are quite varied, from longsword katanas to throwing stars and magic that bursts forth from your hands, rending your enemies in fire. The magic system can be frustrating to utilize, but rewarding, and through accidents and sheer force of will, you can use it to break the game. A part of the fun of Morrowind is kind of getting around the game's limitations and making it work for you. At least it is for me. It's very satisfying to be stuck at a point, but come up with a solution that might not necessarily be what the developers had intended. It's like one of those questions that somebody might ask you. If you were stuck on a deserted island and you could only bring one game with you, what would it be? And I'd have more than a few good answers to that question, but to be honest, I would bring Morrowind and the Elder Scrolls Construction Set with me for unlimited entertainment. Listen, just go play Morrowind now. Or don't. The video is done.